Chapter 7. The Road Less Travelled. The 11th light day of Elenbu, 819. 63 days until Sown. Lewin and I break our fasts at first light with the loaf of bread from Feroth's home. I offer him Conwenna's coin as thanks for the place to rest. There is no sign of Figol. It's probably for the best. Feroth would be unhappy for days if his son was left with me. No need for Figol to suffer any more than he must. I make my way down between the ramparts to start my quest in earnest. "Wait for me, uncle," comes ringing off the top of Maidan's earthen walls. Figol is running with exaggerated strides, and his sheep are following closely behind. The thought of a man running from a pack of vicious sheep pops into my head and brings a smile to my face. The red-headed leader and his obedient, brown-fleeced flock appear briefly at each descending gate, only to disappear as the path takes them through the ditches between earthen ramparts. He arrives gasping for breath. Clearly, blacksmithing does not require much in the way of running. The sheep all crowd around Figol expectantly. "Perhaps I overdid it last night," I say. "I told them to follow you, silly animals. They took it too seriously." I close my eyes and reach out to the sheep. "You are not to look to Figol as being your leader, only a friend of the flock," I say aloud for Figol's benefit. The stupid animals stare mindlessly back at me. "Father has agreed to allow me to show you the way to Solent Keep," he reminds me. I heard him say it, but that still doesn't sound like the brother I know. "Mother may have persuaded him," Figol says softly. We start northward on the tamped earth road. "What way do you plan to take us?" I ask. "We'll take the Maidan road north until it meets the Great Lundingen road. From there, we'll head east until we reach the Solent road. We'll take that south into the city." He acts as if this will clear it all up. I am not familiar with the Great Lundingen road. "What?" "It connects every major city in the southern part of Brittany. It starts at Duber along the east coast and meets up with the Camaldunan road at Lundingen. They merge and run westward to Venta, then Sarum. From there, the road runs west until it hits the Druid ditch road." Figol gives me a furtive glance. Father says that the Druid ditch road leads from one dead end to another. "The road leads to Dinas Gwenenin, the place where your father grew up. He tells everyone that we are Sorim." I shake my head, not trying to hide my disgust. "Father says that the moors are hellish places where no man can survive for long, and that there are great creatures like giant black cats that will hunt anyone foolish enough to find themselves there." "Aye, many say that Bodmin patrols his moor as a great black cat, but I've met none who make a believable claim of seeing him. However, I've lived on top of Dartmoor with my mentor for nearly a year." "But how?" he asks in wonder. "It is cold, damp, and nearly treeless. The wind only stops when the frigid air has settled to make life even more miserable. But all in all, I quite liked it." "Well, Lundingen Road is mostly straight and flat, so it will give us no trouble." "That sounds boring. I have a better idea. Have you ever seen Keenver Darras?" I ask. "I've never heard of it." In the common tongue, it is called the Sea Stone Door. "Dad always says to stay far away from there. It's dangerous." "The holy site or the sea in general?" "Never mind. Either would challenge Feroth's way of thinking, and that would surely be considered dangerous. Come with me. I'll introduce you to one of the 9 Druid holy sites, which is practically on your doorstep." I angle us off the road toward the forest. Figol tugs at my arm. "There are wolves in there." "Aye, and cave bears too. Hopefully we'll get to see them." "But I have only my knife, and you have only your staff." "And our wits," I add cheerfully as I quicken my stride. whether due to fear or a sense of adventure, Feagle quickly catches up to me. The woods are cool and dark. Precious little sunlight lands on the forest floor. The chilly air is perfect for travelling. If only I didn't have to slow my gait, but Feagle manages to find every raised root as he stumbles his way through the forest. Are you not familiar with woodscraft? I ask. I'm a blacksmith apprentice. So you never go into the forest? We hunt deer at dusk as they leave the forest. I propose we play a game. I'll point out signs of animals and you try to identify it. If you're right, I'll give you more insight into any animal of your choosing. He was not lying about avoiding the forest. He knows no animal tricks, scat or even bird calls. At long last, he's able to identify deer hooves pressed in the moist loam. Very good, I say, staying upbeat. Now, what animal would you like to learn more about? The cave bear, he replies immediately. Very well. Continue 10 paces and then stop. Once he turns to face me, I transform. Rising to twice the height of a man, I bask in the awesome power these creatures have. Blood has drained from Feagle's face as he stands petrified. Only the twitch in his left hand differentiates him from a statue. I let out a monstrous bellow and crash to the ground with my forelimbs. It's too much for my nephew. He turns and runs headlong into an 80-year-old oak. Blood begins to trickle from his forehead. Perhaps we should find a creek so you can clean up. His head swivels in all directions before focusing on my smiling face. One emotion after another flashes across his face. He settles on amazement. That was you? He exclaims. You wanted to know about cave bears? I reply with a smile. A creek should be over this hill. Wash it well while I find some hazel leaves to stop the bleeding. The forest goes quiet, except for Feagle, who is oblivious to the change. No birds are singing, and even the squirrels have stopped foraging. Feagle, do you trust me? He stops and shoots me a confused look. I guess so. No guessing allowed today. Either come stand next to me or climb up that oak. Why? Make your decision, and quickly, I urge. Confusion and fear lead him to freeze in place again. Decide right now, I hiss. He walks slowly to me as an impressive grey and black wolf comes out of the brush behind him. It is primed for an attack, its head and tail held low. I clutch Feagle's hand before turning my attention to the leader of the pack. Feagle follows my gaze and panics. I tighten my grip before he can run. If you run, you're inviting them to hunt you down. Them? There's more? You chose to trust me, and it's too late to change your mind now. Be still. I lower my head and avoid direct eye contact. Mentally, I project our peaceful intentions. The lead male relaxes, and the 8 other wolves surrounding us reveal themselves. Do not stare at any of them unless you plan to challenge them. Feagle is trembling with fear, but he holds his ground. I converse with the alpha. Feagle slowly edges behind me. It's exactly what a cub would do. The leader sees the retreat, and the tension in his muscles eases. I project my apology for startling the pack with my cave bear roar. The pack has eaten last night, and they wish only to rest this day. You're in for a treat, I say to Feagle. Make no loud noises or sudden movements, and follow me. We follow the creek to its headwaters, a natural spring. I spot the den and start yipping. First one, then 4 more wolf kits exit the den. They heard my cave bear roar and smelled your blood. They were ready to defend their den to the death, if necessary. Then we should leave. The rest of the pack assembles around us. There are 18 in all. I have allayed the alpha's fear. The queen of the pack snarls her dislike for us. Is that one going to attack? Fiegel asks, voice trembling. She does not like you. Fiegel takes a hard gulp. Your clothes reek of smoke and iron, both of which the wolves fear. Maybe we should leave. Fiegel's eyes never leave the spot directly in front of the Queen. His iron grip is turning my fingers white. The longer we stay here, the better the chance for Fiegel to lose his nerve. You may be right. Let's go before there's a misunderstanding. I send my apologies once more to the leader and his Queen. We slowly move off to the south and east. Fiegel stays close, checking behind us often for the next couple of leagues. Fiegel, I say finally, listen to the noise of the forest. If predators were still following us, this place would be silent. After another league, Fiegel resumes his carefree, stumbling way. When you became that beast, Fiegel starts. Yes. Did you become that animal, or was it a projection? It was not an illusion. I had all the strength and power of the great bear. But what about your mind? You were there, and then your mind disappeared, and a bear was roaring at me. The animal mind assumes primacy. My human mind is still there in the background, but I have all the senses and motivations of the animal. The human mind is like a rudder. It can steer the animal, but only crudely. He nods, as if that explains everything. How is it that you can tell that my mind had receded? Fiegel freezes, as if he's just been caught thieving. Is that how your mother was able to convince Feroth to let you be my guide? When your mother said she was from the Innis Luco, the Black Isle, that wasn't all of it, was it? How else would he have allowed me to leave? He asks, dejected. How else indeed? Does this mean you can read my mind? My power is not that strong, and I have only a fraction of my mother's talents. If a thought or emotion is very strong, then I can sense it whether I want to or not. I can also distinguish people by their mental patterns when they're near me, but mostly I nudge others to agree with me and shield my mind from those more powerful. I smile despite myself. Is this why I have such warm feelings from my encounter with your mother? Mum always says that if you start meetings off on the right foot, you'll have fewer stumbles. I clap my hands in delight. I will hold your mother in high regard, then. I was wondering how Feroth and I managed to avoid trading blows. Whatever you do, you can't let Dad know about Mum or me. You saw us last night, I say. I will gladly take this secret to my grave and get enjoyment from keeping it all the while. Relieved, he loosens up. What other animals can you take the shape of? Any animal I'm familiar with. Can you become a bird? Yes. A fish? I draw the line at fish. They are cold and empty-headed creatures. Do you have a favourite? I realise that the questions are unlikely to end any time soon. This is my favourite, so follow me and try to keep up. I transform into a tawny owl and take off into the canopy above. I spiral back down lazily to the height of the lower branches before leading the way through the woods. Now I know why Boswin did this to me so often, but surely I never pestered him this much. At last we make it to the wood's edge, and the salt air and crashing waves are unmistakable. I change back to myself to walk through the marram grass on the sandy rise. The ground falls away before us to a smooth, sandy beach and the churning sea below. On the isthmus in front of us stands Kim Vidaras, the gateway to the watery expanse of Lear and Melazine. Can you feel the energy? Despite our trek, I feel energized and ready for anything. Fiegel is staring at the salt spray and the great arch extending out into the sea. Pride swells within me for giving my nephew an experience he will never forget. The waves pass under the stone archway and crash restlessly onto the sandy shore. Uncle, I want to become a druid, he shouts over the sea. I let his declaration go. Now is not the time for arguments. Come, We must make a sacrifice. I have nothing to give, Fiegel answers, confused. The gods expect us to give something of value. If you have no possessions of value, the gift of blood will do. The path to Kimver Darris is well worn. With any luck, fellow druids will see the offering and come greet us. We walk out on the arch as the waves batter the stone beneath us. At the edge, I break my staff over my knee. The place makes me feel insignificant by comparison. Please accept this offering, Lear, from your humble servant. I hurl half of my staff as far into the turbulent sea as I can. I walk back to Fiegel. The gift is to show respect, not to flatter, so a few drops will do. Fiegel slices his palm and lets some of his blood mingle with the sea. On the other end of the monolith, we repeat our gestures to Melusine. Who are these deities? Fiegel asks. Lear is the lord of the sea. Melusine is the goddess of the merfolk. There's no such thing as mermaids. There are, but they left our shores over 800 years ago, along with the elves, giants, and pixies. That's all make-believe, Fiegel counters. What year is it? It's 819. What do you think happened 819 years ago? All the elder races, except the centaurs, sailed into the endless sea. Brannock the Burly started the Emerald Druids of Eru, and my order, the Protectors of Brittany, on that day. He swore that he and his druids would protect the land for the next 1,000 years. What happens when they return? With any luck, our souls will be reborn during that time, and we'll find out. Now come, I have brothers and sisters to greet. I point to the 5 druids standing atop the adjacent grassy knoll and wave in greeting. They change into seafowl and join us as we descend the path to the beach. I bow and spread my hands wide to the woman in the centre. I do not know her, but she radiates authority. I am Merod, protector of Kimver Darris, she says solemnly. Who might you be? I am Grami, the questing acolyte of Boswin, protector of Menan Tol. This is my nephew, Fiegel, born of strong and proud parents. He is accompanying me to Solent Keep. Boswin has taught you well. You give proper offerings to the gods of the sea. Will the young man Fiegel of strong and proud stock consent to catching us dinner with my charges so that we may speak? Her robust smile belies her true feelings about formal speech. Of course, m'lady, Fiegel stutters. Lord, I correct him. But she's a woman. I'm sure Lord Merod is aware. When you speak to one of the 9 great druids, you call them Lord. Sorry, my lord, he says to me. He blushes and turns to Merod. Sorry, my lord lady. She wishes him good fishing with a genuine smile and extends her hand toward her druids. They surround him and excitedly introduce themselves. One of her students gives Fiegel a reed basket before she and her cohorts change into pelicans and begin their fishing. I sit patiently, waiting for Merod to focus her attention on me rather than the southern sea. The druids begin dropping fish into Fiegel's basket. The simple joy on his face as he awaits the next catch makes my pride swell up as if I was his parent. I will know of your request and speak plainly. No lords, ladies, or masters, please. As you wish. I tell her about my quest. Her countenance darkens as I speak, but she doesn't interrupt me. Tell me of your relation with Boswin. Knowing that Boswin shared all my failings with Caradoc, I must assume all the 9 know about my past. I admit to the worst of my previous transgressions before I can be asked. Interesting. And when did Boswin give you this quest? It was very sudden. He gave it just as the 5th day of Lugnasa ended at sundown. She studies the vast expanse of water. And was Caradoc present? She asks, giving me a sidelong glance. How can she know so much? I'm too shocked to speak. I nod. Amused, she continues, Now, more than ever, I wish to know, is Boswin fond of you or not? I don't know how to answer that. He has rarely had reason to fault my skills. Perhaps it was an unfair question. Boswin keeps himself distant, even from his closest compatriots. I ask because this quest he gave you speaks loudly, and I wish to know what it is saying. Either he dislikes you and set you up to fail, or he believes strongly in your abilities. Whichever it may be, he has sent you upon the most difficult quest of which I have ever heard. I pause before "My lord" comes stumbling out of my mouth. It is only one flower. She gazes at me, inhales deeply, and mentally makes up her mind. I will say no more, other than to implore you to keep your wits about you at all times. Boswin has always been inscrutable to me, even at the best of times.